So if we're ready, we can go into Void Bastards.
Oh.
This is a game. It was a good week for games. It turns out. A couple weeks before E3, they decided to release a whole bunch of really good games. Outer Wilds came out, now Void Bastards as well, and so this is on its surface, it's like a first-person roguelike game, taking place in a futuristic setting in which prisoners are kept as like freeze-dried packets that they add water to, and then all of a sudden they expand into their full form. Because you don't want to fill up space with prisons. You want to be conservative with it. And basically, you get sent on this quest to find these. They're MacGuffins. They're just things to go out and find. But it's all about collecting items and in upgrading your equipment to get you farther along in the map screen, so to speak. It's like a nebula map. It's a lot like looks a lot like the game FTL, the way that you it's a web of all these interconnecting ships basically, and you choose which one you want to go to. You land on it, then it becomes a first-person shooter, and you have to navigate the ship, fight enemies, deal with the security system on the ship and all of its computers and stuff, collect resources, and then get off. And it's pretty generous with the penalties on dying. This is usually one of my bigger problems with roguelikes, is starting over, especially from the very beginning of a game with absolutely nothing, is really a recipe for me to just turn the game off and never play it again. But some games, they do carryover stuff, and this game does actually a lot of carryover between deaths. Like your whole upgrade tree comes with you. A lot of the stuff you collect comes with you. And each character that you start with has some sort of quirky trait. And this goes into, along with the funny little, you're actually a freeze-dried packet that's a prisoner. Feeds into the humor of the game, which is very prevalent throughout. Very British humor, isn't that right, Lee?
Yeah, quite arch and kind of cutting British humour. Definitely very kind of sardonic and sarcastic.
Yeah, very
much
dry.
Giving you a comedy with a sneer.
Yeah,
sort of thing I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely not taking itself seriously.
No.
And it all works to its benefit, and it kind of feeds into even the graphic style, which is like a comic book or graphic novel kind of layout. The closest comparison is probably Borderlands, with the big thick lines around everything, but this even takes it even further. And literally, your first person screen looks like a comic panel. It's got a white box around it, as if it's like inside of a comic book or something like that. And then that also carries over into the menu systems and the story presentation, which is presented in like comic panel style. So it's a pretty good overall presentation.
Yeah.
So I know you've been playing it quite a bit, Lee, and so have I. It's a really good get in there, play for a little while, and get out, or you can take your time and put in a few hours at a time. What's your overall feel of the game? Like, what do you think of it?
It's I really enjoy it. It's gives the impression of kind of There's been quite a variety of those kind of roguelike shooters, haven't there? I think the last one that it resembled was probably Mother Gunship. On the surface, it looks like it's another Mother Gunship. But as soon as you get into it, you realise it's a lot deeper than you ever thought it was going to be, with the quite heavy crafting you can do within it, because there's so many things you can keep crafting as you collect, isn't there? As you go around the ship.
Yeah.
I know it's classed as a first-person shooter, but it's it plays well the idea of when not to shoot as much as when to shoot, because of the very limited system of getting bullets. You can pick them up in the level, or sometimes you get a shop ship. Shop ship? Yeah, there you go.
Shop ship, yeah.
Shop ship. Shop ship.
Shop ship.
Yeah. Sound like a character from the game.
Yeah, I know.
You haven't. I'll tell you what. When a character calls you a dick face, you don't know what to do with it. Hello, dick face. Yeah.
Do the spooks say "I love you" when they appear behind you? Is that what I'm hearing, or are they saying something different? Because I keep hearing that, and I don't know if it's what they're actually saying or not.
I don't know. But I do like them. What's the short guys' names called? They get the little short guys that not the jelly things.
The short guys that aren't that aren't the tourists.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't remember what they're called anyway. But sometimes you'll get because there's things that are in your way sometimes, like oil slicks on the floor that obscure things, or there's smoke.
Yeah.
That kind of obscure your view through the level and through a corridor, so you can't see what's on the other side.
And this isn't like semi-transparent smoke either. This is like you literally cannot see through this smoke. You do not know what's on the other side of that smoke.
Yeah. But they do this thing where you can hear it visually where the creatures are, or the enemies on the ship are, but they also show it like a comic book splash. It will say step, 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 or slurp, slurp, slurp. But if you shoot them through the smoke, it will also be step, step, and you'll just write, the fuck? And it's silly little touches like that keep you going when it's despite the fact that it can be quite tense, because if you're trapped with a certain thing like spooks are kind of floating guys that float in and out. As soon as they start to vanish, you can't hit them. You have to fry them while they're visible. Otherwise, you can watch them vanish away. You can shoot all you like. It's not going to happen. It's always varied with the combat when you have to choose the combat. It's, as I say, it's often better that you don't choose the combat because you'll get ruined. They act around sound, which can be a detriment if you pick the wrong character, can't it? Because, like I say, every time you get a new character, it's got quite a generous, good perk, and that will help you. And he's got another perk that will absolutely fuck you over.
Yeah.
Like, there was a character that I can't remember what his good attribute was, but his bad attribute was that he was a smoker, and he coughs and alerts you.
Yep. I had that.
So there's little things.
That was actually my very first character. My very first character was a smoker, and so whenever you walked around, you would just randomly cough, and he would alert enemies. And then I got one that was 25% of the time, she would go to the wrong destination that you chose on the map. So like I was saying, it was like it's a web of these different basically spaceships floating around in this nebula, and they branch off. So sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 different branches you can choose. You can look ahead one space and and get an idea of what the ship contains. So if you're looking for a particular thing, like if you're running low on fuel, you want to land on a ship that has fuel. You can see what kind of enemies are on it. It's pretty good with giving you an idea of the threats and the benefits of what you're going to be getting when you land on a ship. But it is still a little bit up in the air. So like I would choose to go to a particular ship because, oh boy, I need this cool stuff, but then I would then go in a completely opposite direction because she had this stupid 25% goes to the wrong, or goes in the wrong direction perk.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying. I think I'm still actually playing her. She ended up she's got like 2,000 health now, so there's like I can't.
I'll stick with it.
Yeah, I guess so. I got to get to like so there's certain ships that have gene clinics on them basically, and that gives you an opportunity to either add, replace, or modify your perks. So I just got to get to one of those and get rid of that perk, and then she'd be a real tough character, a real good character.
Yeah. But the way the characters work, like you say, kind of it is fairly generous with the deaths, with the stuff that you get back. So in a relatively punching games, if you get a character you know is going to suck, it doesn't matter. You just send him in, right, I'm killing this one off, and you just send him in and let him die. And you just start with another character. It doesn't really you're never really stuck with that character if you really don't want them.
Yeah.
You don't have, you just, right, I'll kill this one off. It's too short. I can't, the really short guy. Have you had him yet?
No, but I've had the really tall guy.
Yeah, that can't get through the doors.
Yeah, he fits, but anything like around knee level, you have to duck in order to open. So like, so that's annoying. And I don't know if he didn't survive very long, so I don't know if he's not able to crawl underneath things. I don't know, because like there's sometimes things like ventilation shafts that you can crawl through that aren't on the map, so it's actually like connects rooms that you didn't even originally know. So the perks are generally pretty silly, and they'll be a little like when you start up a new character, there'll also be a little like the reason why they were arrested, which is usually really dumb, like they ate too many cookies or something like that.
In a weird way, although I killed that character, I like short guy because I explained to you the status screen, you'll get kind of the stats of the guy or the woman that you're using, and it's like a criminal snapshot, isn't it? Of kind of, when they hold up the criminal number, isn't it? And they get the profile shot of each character. And my short guy, who kind of the whole thing is he can crawl into everything, but he can't shoot anything above like 2 foot tall. You can just see him holding up the placard on the very, very top of his head at the bottom of the mugshot.
Yeah, the tall guy's mugshot was basically he was holding it, and it was just his stomach. It was like his stomach to his chest, no head. You couldn't see his head or anything, and he was holding the placard. It's good. And this person that's got the 25% chance to go the wrong direction. The trait is like disoriented or something, and her eyes are like reverse cross-eyed. They're both looking in opposite directions. Yeah,
it's very arch, isn't it? It's very kind of
it's got a very, very clear sense of humor. So there's a pedigree here. Some of these folks that worked on this game also worked on some of the BioShock games, and there may be even some lineage to System Shock, because there's a lot of System Shock in this game. It doesn't really seem like it on the surface when you say like a roguelike, especially like procedurally generated kind of thing. Sounds like the exact opposite of what something like a System Shock or a BioShock is, where those are like really in-depth crafted worlds. So to throw in the wrench of randomly generated stuff doesn't really make too much sense. But there is actually a lot in common with them in terms of the way that the systems work within the ships and stuff like that. And I don't mean systems as in like the ship systems. I mean the systems that are running underneath in like the game's systems. Like earlier you mentioned the oil slick, right? So you know, in a normal game, you would be like, oh, an oil slick. I've seen that in a game before. I shoot it and it lights on fire, right? Or something like that. That's not how oil slicks work in this game. When you walk over an oil slick, you get the oil on your feet, and all of a sudden you're like ice skating across the ship. And it has both a positive and a negative effect, because it could throw you into a room that you don't want to be in right now and surrounded by enemies, or it could allow you to quickly get away from an enemy that you're trying to escape from. So, you know, you could accidentally hit an oil slick, end up in a bad situation, or you could use that to your advantage and use it to get out of a bad situation. And there are hazards as well, like there's fire and there's radiation and stuff like that in like electrical cables on the floor. And they can hurt you, but you can also coax enemies into them in order to, you know, put the negative effect onto the enemy as well. And that leads into what Lee was talking about, like choosing between killing the enemies, attacking them or not, and using the tools in the environment to kind of stay secretive for as long as possible. It's hard to get through without having enemies see you, but you can kind of get, you know, you can usually get pretty far without at least taking any damage, which is really what you want to avoid the most. Even if you do spend some ammo isn't super common, but it is better than taking damage, because healing is usually, in my experience anyway, more difficult than finding the ammo that you need. And yeah, it's just it's super interesting how all of the systems come together, and how you learn to use them against each other, and in conjunction with each other and stuff like that. And when you get ships that, like, the onboard security system is on your side or something like that, is just like it completely changes the game, the way you're navigating the ship. Or like you'll get a ship where one type of enemy is on your side, and they'll engage with the other types of enemies. So you're kind of like, in that situation, you're kind of like taking a step back and letting it unfold, and then going in and cleaning up the mess afterward. So it's like each ship that you land on is kind of like its own little immersive sim, which is an interesting idea that they kind of do a really good job of pulling off, in my opinion. There's a lot of nods to those types of games, like obviously System Shock with the setting and everything like that, but there's nods to Half-Life in there. So there's one type of show. All the ships, they have like some sort of for like world building and stuff. They have a loudspeaker system that's kind of broadcasting messages, right? And a lot they're usually pretty quirky and stuff like that. They're funny, but there's one type of ship in particular that when the voice comes on, it sounds exactly like the voice from a particular level at Half-Life, where this like grungy, very robotic noise comes on and like has some sort of announcement, and it sounds just like it. And there's no way that they didn't, intend for it to sound like that. So yeah, that's what I'm getting out of this game, is like just seeing all of these systems work together and figuring out how to exploit them. What do you think is the
like door systems?
Yeah,
and like that, how you can use just a simple thing as a door lock to kind of actually flip the game around to play it non-combat, by duking kind of enemies and zipping through. There's kind of a timed lock, isn't there, on the things, and it becomes more something that you think would be a chore to keep locking the doors behind you every time you go through becomes an essential part of the game sometimes. So it's very clever at doing little things like that.
Yeah, and then you'll see things like a perk that, so when you unlock a door or when you do like what's called an authorization, which is like overwriting something basically, there's like a timer on it. So you hit it and you gotta wait like anywhere between like 2 seconds and 10 or 15 seconds for it to process, and then you get your special item, or you override the robot and now it's on your side or something like that. And you see a perk that's like 50% faster on that, and you're like, that doesn't seem like much. It's like 2 seconds. But then you get to the point where you need that door open right now. It's not, you don't need it open 15 seconds later. You need it open right now. So the difference between 15 seconds and 8 seconds is maybe the difference between you living or dying. And that's where something as small as that starts to come into play, and it really feels like everything seems to be working together the way it's supposed to be.
Actually got a variation on that perk, which is you have that quick thing, but it's 25% of the time, so it's not always reliable.
Yeah.
So you get variations on a perk as well. It's not a straight perk. There's always a kind of variation on the theme.
Yeah, so when it works, you're like, oh, yes.
Oh, jeez,
What did you think of the upgrade tree? Because there's quite a lot of stuff to upgrade.
I really like it because every time you upgrade, it pays off. It's not an incremental upgrade. It's a massive upgrade. Have you had the pineapple of grenades, which you throw? It's like cut through a grenade, you shoot and throw, and then I've got
the unstable kitty bot that when you throw it, the enemies attack it, and then when it explodes, it sends out a whole cluster of other bombs. Is it
very
similar to that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a bouquet of grenades. And you hold it, and there's like all these like 10, 15, 20 grenades, and you throw it, and it kind of bounces, and it's got a really, really long timer. But when it goes everywhere, and there's like 15, 20, 30 grenades. If you're lucky, you could take out a screw with one grenade.
Oh, with just one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they throw so many, especially if you do it to a corridor or something like that, they've had it, because it just bounces back and forth. Each grenade releases another grenade, and it just whittles down. But that 10 seconds wick to wait to go off is punishing. The next upgrade drops it down significantly, so you really notice and really pays off searching for the extra kind of scrap to build them. So you do really notice creators. I really enjoy it, actually. It's quite fun to... It's frustrating trying to get the pieces.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's frustrating to get the pieces, but I also like that it allows you to take your the random materials, the junk materials you find, and have the opportunity to maybe craft them using those, so you don't have to necessarily seek them out on the map. Yeah, and it's fun to see where there's some things on that upgrade tree that kind of surprised me. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, even some of the upgrades on the weapons themselves, make a huge difference in the way that they handle and stuff like that. And I did get that railgun that you were talking about that can actually shoot through windows.
It's
so you
lock a door, take them all out. Yeah.
I actually like the spiker that poisons them, is silenced and it poisons them. The enemies, because it's really good. It's actually pretty good against the spooks, because if you get them, they'll disappear, they'll come back, but one dart will eventually kill them. And it's also
the poison.
Yeah, the poison.
Poison also stacks, doesn't it?
Well, no, you hit them, and then it just keeps poisoning them over time. And it's fun to just because it's silenced, they don't know that they've been hit. So we peg a janitor, and he just starts walking away, and then 30 seconds later you hear, and
Yeah.
he's died. When I think before we move on to Dragon Age, the I was noticing that so many of these enemies, like the janitor, the spook, the scribe, and even kind of the screw, all have kind of the same attack. They all just kind of shoot you with like a blue laser weapon or something like that. And I was like, oh, this is kind of lame. But then I realized that the real difference between these enemies is how they behave. So like the janitor is just wandering around in a room, and when he sees you, he'll immediately go for you and kind of just like go toward you until you either kill him or he kills you. The spook, like we said before, disappears. So he'll appear, he'll see you, he'll take a shot at you, he'll disappear, and then he'll try to appear behind you. So like surround sound is a pretty important thing for a situation like that. I've used that quite a bit to figure out where the spook was gonna reappear. And then the scribe will actually run away from you. He'll take his shot, and then he'll try to run away if you start shooting at him. So there's a lot of variation in the enemies, and you have to deal with how they behave as well as worrying about what they're shooting at you. And of course the screw is just this gigantic hulking menace that will just pursue you until you manage to destroy him.
Security bots can be devastating as well.
Yeah, the security bots
if they're
are
alerted. Jeez.
Yeah, they can be pretty bad. And I think the music is really good too. And it's used very smartly, and it'll kick on when the action is happening, and then when you've stopped aggroing the enemy, it will stop. And it just sounds good too.
Yeah, got a weird kind of cross between kind of that Mick Gordon sound and kind of a Jesper Kidd sort of thing.
Yeah,
we're crossing that electronic thump.
Yeah, it's a really good put together game. I wonder if they'll do any add-ons to it, or if they'll move on to something else.
I hope so. I got it on Game Pass, so I think I'm probably gonna pick a copy up. If it continues the way it going, I think I might pick it up and support it. I think it's good enough. I think it's one of those games that kind of I'd like to help this one out, because obviously it's not a huge game, is it? It's quite a small game. It's not a massive budget. I think it's definitely worth looking at. What is it? A $25 price tag? 30?
30. Yeah.
30. Yeah. I'd say it was worth that.
So Derek, I know you're going to be picking it up later on. Do you have any questions for us specifically about it before we move on?
I don't think so. Definitely really interested in it, and hearing the things you're talking about, it definitely seems like it's going to be something interesting and unique to check out.
Yeah.
If you want to do a shorthand for that sort of thing, if you like Devolver style games, I think it has a sort of vibe of something they might put out. That anarchic, fairly dark.
Yeah. I could see that
sort of games.
Yeah. This is actually published by Humble Bundle, which is interesting. Yeah. Yep.
Oh. Great stuff.
All right, so that was Void Bastards. That's on PC and Xbox, as Lee said, on Game Pass as well. That's also where I'm playing it. I don't believe it's on anything else right now. I'm sure it'll come to PlayStation and maybe even Switch later on down the road, though, because I think it's doing pretty well. It's getting pretty good reviews and stuff like that, so they're probably going to get it on as many platforms as they can. Thank you for joining us on this very special episode of Voxel Viewpoint. If you'd like to hear or see more, please consider subscribing to us on your favorite podcast app, subscribing to us on YouTube, or visiting voxelvoice.com, where all of our great content comes together in one place. Also check out the Voxel Voice Facebook group, where you can join in on the discussion with a great, like-minded community.